All right, welcome back, everybody. So I want to jump this over to Tom. I just made him a presenter. He is with TeamCentric. They're going to be sponsoring the Hawthorne session. I had a poll up for a brief moment that showed everybody how many people attend the user group events. I hope everybody gets to an in-person event. Teo just had his at Engage at over in Belgium. UK Lug this fall is now Icon UK. They are back in September. MW Lug is coming up this fall also in Austin, Texas. And of course, there's other ones that go on throughout Italy and the Netherlands. So Tom, I gave you control. Are you able to start driving?
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Great.
Sure.
Thanks, Chris. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today, and thank you, Chris, for putting together this great event. TeamCentric Technologies is an IBM premier partner that's been practicing Notes and Domino since Release 2. Our services include Domino support, Domino development, training, and IBM software licensing. Our support services include daily upgrades, daily support services, and migrations to IBM Connections Cloud Mail. Our Domino development services include Notes application development, as well as modernizing applications with XPages and the browser plugin for browser and mobile access. We offer custom end-user training, as well as technical training for both administrators and developers, and TeamCentric also offers IBM software licensing for passport renewals and new licenses. We've helped lots of companies install and configure Hawthorne, which we're going to learn more about today from Luis, and we'd be happy to help you too. TeamCentric can be reached at 314-785-0252 and teamcentric.com. Thank you, Chris. Back to you.
Oh, wow, you made that easy. We've been working with them for quite a long time, so I'm glad TeamCentric's always been part of the in-person events. So when we had IMLug, now Icon US, they've always been a sponsor and part of it, so it's good to have them here as well because, yes, they do Hawthorne work as well. So, Luis, I'm going to give you control. I think you're on audio already, if I'm correct.
Yes, I am.
Of course you are. How have you been, sir, while I give you control to present?
Thank you.
Yeah, control. Good. And as everyone should know, he is now IBM. I'm just making fun of you. He's been at some places, and now he's going to be at IBM. Yeah, thank you again to TeamCentric from Tom. But Luis is back at IBM. I got your title on the website, but gosh darn, I don't know what it is now. You can let everybody know. So off to him for the next hour or so. Everybody remember, please, if you have questions, put it in the questions area so I can get it over to him. Otherwise, I will be watching the questions and chat area if you need any technical assistance. So over to you, Luis.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Let me see if I can get this stuff to present. What the heck is my... There you go. Okay, awesome. Thank you, everyone. So FYI, I'm not going to be looking at the chat because my screen has been taken over by PowerPoint. But if you have any questions, please jump in, or Chris, let me know. Okay. So again, thank you to TeamCentric for sponsoring this session. I have worked with TeamCentric in the past. I personally know Tom very well. So again, very happy to work with you on this one, Tom. Okay. So my name is Luis Guirigay. I'm a worldwide executive IT specialist for IBM. Yes, as Chris mentioned, I have been with multiple business partners in the U.S. and Latin America for a long time, and I decided to jump to the mothership about 2.5, 3 years ago. And my role is basically, I'm responsible for anything Notes and Domino, Connections Cloud, IBM Verse, Project Hawthorne, and things like that at the worldwide level, pre-sales and post-sales. My contact information is in there. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. And there you go. So these are the disclaimers. When you get this presentation, make sure you read every single one because, again, we might make changes at the very last minute. Okay, number one, Hawthorne. So we introduced Hawthorne about 2.5 years ago. It was actually running under what we call limited availability. That meant that it was actually ready for production, but before giving access to our customers, we really wanted to understand why they wanted to use it, right? So I managed quite a few projects inside IBM, but this project is one I feel very proud about because I can see, how amazing, this possibility in the Domino infrastructure is allowing our customers not only to stay, but actually Microsoft customers to migrate into the IBM backend platform. So the way we like to position Hawthorne to an existing Domino installed base is, you guys can read this paragraph if you want, but it's basically allow our customers to avoid a migration cost, right? You know, you might have seen this before, but you are the admin for this company, or you become the admin for this company, and suddenly there is a new VP, a new executive that joins the company, and guess what? They never used Notes before. They have been using Outlook all their life, and I like to call those, whether emotional reasons or technical reasons. The point is that that group of people are powerful enough, or they have enough power to make noise and to drive the migration for an entire company down to Exchange in Outlook. One thing I can tell you, for example, is that I was in Brazil about 2 years ago, and there was this 25,000 user people company, and they got a new CIO, and the guy said, you know what, we have to go to Outlook because I have never used Notes and I don't like Notes, whatever, right? So I went down to Sao Paulo, spent a few days with them. We installed Hawthorne. We gave these guys Outlook, and the week after, he sent an email congratulating the entire IT staff, saying, guys, I mean, this is amazing. We were able to migrate to Outlook in less than a week. And somebody replied back and said, no, we're still running Domino. You just got access to Hawthorne, and that's it. The guy was so impressed that that's it. Today, that company is still running Notes in Domino. They are doing a lot of pilots with IBM Verse. And again, I mean, why replacing the entire infrastructure just because a few people want to use Outlook? Now, for white space, what we call white space, people not using Domino today. So there are a few points that, as I mentioned, I have been talking to a lot of customers that are running Exchange with Outlook today, and they would like to jump into IBM messaging technology, but they say, okay, but let me use Outlook because that's what my users are used to. That's what I have my plugins talking to and things like that, and that's perfectly fine, right? So just to give you a few pain points, like for example, in Exchange, there are no in-place upgrades. I don't know if you guys have done an Exchange migration before, but the reality is a migration. It's not an upgrade. They are very long and disruptive. I have not seen any migration whatsoever that lasts less than a few months, right? So companies, very large companies, today they are actually still using Outlook 2007 or 2010, just because it's very painful to migrate to Exchange next version, whatever it is, and that's why they keep running all versions. If you think about it, no one really cares about Exchange, right? They only care about Outlook, and even most of the Outlook plugins out there, they don't even need Exchange in the backend. We have a lot of customers that have migrated from Exchange to Domino. They still use Outlook, and a lot of the plugins they were using before are still working, right? And a really good example for that, it could be, for example, Box plugin, could be the same time plugins, could be the connections plugins. I have seen CRM Dynamics plugins. I have seen other Salesforce plugins that is still work, and again, it should not be an issue. On the technical side, one thing I have found very funny actually is that in Exchange, every single admin person that I know or I have talked to that manages Exchange today, they really want a Domino console. And the reason I say that is because, to my knowledge today, I don't know in the past 2-3 years, I have not really touched Exchange too much, but it's very hard to prevent issues on an Exchange environment because again, there is no live console. It's very hard to know what's happening in real time. So when you show the Domino console to an Exchange admin, they literally fall in love. I actually remember one time where, this company, they actually offered me a contract, for me to build a Domino-alike, live console for Exchange. And I just said, you know what, it's going to be cheaper for you just to move to Domino. Okay, so finally, when you go from Exchange to a Domino platform, you get more than email, right? So as you guys know, Domino is not only a messaging platform, it's a very powerful collaboration platform where you get XPages, LDAP, HTTP, the ability to build workflow applications within a few days and stuff like that. So remember that when you talk to your customers about moving from Exchange into Domino, and you tell them, yeah, you can actually keep using Outlook, and you will probably feel no difference, about the backend. But on top of that, you are gaining a lot of functionality for applications, for HTTP servers, and so on, that you will be making a really, really good investment. And finally, for those customers running a Gmail, the only thing I can tell them is that, Gmail on-prem, anyone, right? So we had a couple of customers in the past that they really wanted to try cloud, they really wanted to go cloud, but they found that for whatever technical or legal reasons, compliance reasons, a lot of users, could not be moved to cloud. So one of the benefits we bring or we put on the table is the concept of a hybrid, right? You can have 100 people or 100,000 people, and you can split how people are on-prem or on cloud as you want, right? So we don't really have too many restrictions on that one. I said a couple of minutes ago that, again, there are emotional and technical reasons. But one thing I like to say is that a lot of people that, they really love Outlook, they feel they cannot live without Outlook. It's just because, they start working with Office since they went in, like, probably elementary school or something. So that's probably why that, again, they are so focused on Office. That's the only thing they know. That's the only thing that they have used so far. They probably have Outlook at home. They probably have Microsoft Office at home. So that's why they are driving these emotional reasons that everything has to be on Outlook or Microsoft Office. And you know what? To IBM, we don't care anymore. If you want to run Outlook, that's fine. If you want to run Notes, that's fine. If you want to run iNotes, we don't really care anymore. So I'm not going to go here into details, but what's our strategy around the products we deliver, the product we sell, in our focus on cloud and on-prem. So again, not too many details on this one. But here, if you had not seen this slide before, I really want to spend a few seconds here. This is basically the bring your own client strategy we have been talking about for the past 2 years, right? You can use Outlook. Today, we only support Outlook 2013. Once we go GA, and I'm going to give you a few more details later, we're going to be able to also support 2010 and 2016. And of course, you can use the Notes client. You can use IMAP if that's your preference. We still support that, both on-prem and cloud. Of course, we have Verge in the cloud. You saw the announcement back at Connect about Verge on-prem coming later in 2016. So we're giving our customers a really good list of options for them to decide what's the email client I want to use. So again, remember, bring your own client strategy. We don't really want to push people to use Notes anymore. Again, Notes is our standard client, is what we would like people to use. But if there are reasons for a company to use Outlook, that's okay. We're good with it. So let's just move on. So a little bit on the limited availability program. Today, we actually have about, this 280 number was about a month ago. We're probably close to 300 people or 300 companies today using a Project Hawthorn, for production environments, right? I have been running the program for the past 8 months or 1 year or something like that, and I can tell you that every single day when people know about this program, they actually say, you know what? We want to be part of it. We want to use it. We have people that are driving us crazy because they want to use Outlook. So yes, today we can do that. One thing I want to mention here is that we are very close to announce a general availability for Hawthorne for on-prem. For cloud, we already announced GA. That was back in March, and we're going to have a slide with dates and stuff like that. So, but for on-prem, if you really want to deploy Hawthorne today, what I have been telling my customers is, I'm going to give you access to the program. I'm going to make you part of the limited availability program, but please do not do any mass production rollout. Why? Because if you get Hawthorne LA limited availability today, in 2 months, you're going to get a new drop of the code that on the server, it will be totally fine. Within 5 minutes, you can get up and running. But if you do a major rollout of the Outlook client or the plugin for the Outlook client, guess what? You will have to do that again because we make some changes in the code. And again, I'm going to go in details later. So you want to be part of the program? Great. Let me know. I'll make sure you get it. But do not go to production with that code because you will have to do another upgrade within a few months. Okay, so these are some of the capabilities we will be including in this code drop that's going to come very, very soon. And you can see that, support, notes encryption, drafts, emails, calendar, all of that is fully supported. Free busy lookup, that's one of the more important ones when you talk about, people using IMAP. There is no really concept of calendar or enterprise calendar like free busy lookup or room finder with IMAP. So we really ask people, if you can, please do not use IMAP for enterprise-grade business. You go to Hawthorn, and that should give you everything you need, both on the mail, contacts, and calendar. So this is a few more options offline. Automatically send receive messages. Out of office. All of that will be coming. Just to give you an idea of how this looks on the client, I'm going to give you a demo in a couple of minutes. So on the client, what you have to do is you have to install this little tool that is highlighted here. It's called IBM Mail Sync. It's like a 25 or 50 megabytes. I don't remember right now. It's a very small little tool you have to install on your Outlook. And the next time you want to set up a profile, you select Other, and you will be presented with these specific options. You select IBM Mail Sync, and when you click Next, you will be presented with these two options, right? You enter your name, your email address, and you select Connections Cloud or My Company's Mail Server, right? IBM Connections Cloud, this is a little trick I did here, but if you select IBM Connections Cloud, you will not see the server name option because, again, you're connecting to the cloud. Once you authenticate in the cloud, we will know exactly what your server is, right? But if you select the My Company's Mail Server, you will have to enter the fully qualified host name for the Hawthorne server. If you select if you go back, in this case, when you select IBM Connections Cloud, you will be presented with this screen right here. You will log into Connections Cloud just like you do today, and at that point, you will be fully connected, and you will start the synchronization process and all of that. A few things we add, again, if you have been running Hawthorne today, one thing we add for this new code is that we actually put a new icon outside Outlook because a lot of people complain that it was very hard within Outlook to know if you're connected, disconnected, or if there was an error or something like that. So because of that, we put this little piece of code outside the Outlook client, and you can see from here what its status is. And if there is any issue, you will be able, from here, you will be able to do some capture of errors and stuff like that, so support can help you troubleshoot. Okay, so I'm not going to go into too much detail here. Let me go and give you a quick demo of what we're doing here. Okay, so hopefully you guys can see my screen. If not, please let me know. What I have right now, say that again, Chris?
You're all set. We can see it clearly.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Okay, so what I have here is, again, I'm running on Mac, so I just have a VM running on my Mac with Windows, and this is Outlook 2013. Let me give you a quick tour of what you will see when you go through this deployment. So number one, you will see here under the additional options for Outlook, you will see an IBM Mail section. From here, you will be able to set up the out of office, you will be able to do delegation, you will be able to do the cleanup. You have the little help where, again, there are some workarounds or there are some limitations. There might things that might work a little bit different. So because of that, I want to make sure that you guys read these. When you click and you go to product documentation, you can see everything. And at the end, there are a couple of, again, limitations or known issues. They are very well specified around calendar, around email. Again, make sure you read that so there are no surprises with your users, right? Because we use ID Vault to handle the encryption in Hawthorne, one thing you will see if you enable the change HTTP password via the website, you will see a new link here or a new icon here that says change my password, right? And that only happens, again, when you enable that functionality. Okay, so let me give you a couple of examples here. So for example, this is an encrypted email, right? This email, in this specific demo environment, I have two users. I have Bill Jordan. He is an iNotes user, and I have Ted Amado. Ted Amado is an Outlook user, right? So in this case, Bill Jordan, he sent an encrypted email to Ted, and when Ted wants to open that, he can see that this document is encrypted. What's going to happen here is that when I double click on that, it's going to ask me for my notes password, right? Because again, based on the Domino PKI infrastructure, you need to access your notes ID so you can get all the public and private keys so you can decrypt the messages, right? So in this case, I'm going to enter the password, and I'm going to go live to my ID vault so I can get all these keys, and then I can decrypt the message. I can read the message, blah, 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 and at this point, when I close this email, I can decide if I want to keep this message encrypted or unencrypted. So if I say yes, you can see here that when I come back to it, the email will always be decrypted because I already decrypt and I save the message, this specific message with the encryption key. So I can just go back to it at any given time. A couple of additional options here. You can see we support almost full fidelity images, rich text, and let me do a pretty quick test here. I'm going to go into iNotes, and I'm going to log in as Bill. Give it a few seconds here. Yep. I'm going to go ahead and send an email to Ted. Okay. And I'm just going to put some random text here. I'm not going to go in crazy, but let me put a table. Okay. Let me put some random text inside. Let me change colors, sizes, fonts. Oh, come on. Okay, anyway. So that's fine. Let me go a little bit bigger on this one. I'm going to send this email. And you can see here that within less than 1 second, I can see the email. And it came with the table. It came with all the font changes and stuff like that. To be honest, I have not seen, as today, I have not seen any email, one of those HTML emails or one of those very rich text messages with tables and images and colors and stuff like that that doesn't display properly in Outlook. So that's actually pretty cool. Another thing that I like to show when I talk about Outlook and bring your own client is this idea of using Outlook with the Notes browser plugin. Again, there might be emotional reasons why people do not want to use Notes, right? But guess what? They work for a company that have a lot of Notes applications that have been developed, for multiple years. So in this case, this is an email coming from, again, from a Notes user. There is a link to a specific Notes database, and when I click on it, what's going to happen is that it's just going to show my Notes browser plugin, which, by the way, is going to be called the IBM Client Application Access in the next couple of weeks. But the idea here is that you can provide your users a powerful user experience, with Outlook, with the Notes browser plugin, and even XPages, right, without really having to use the Notes client if they don't want to. Okay, there's a few more examples here. So you click on this one. If I go here, what is it? Okay, it's not working, that one. Let me see. Oops. Okay, never mind. This is something with Firefox. So this is funny because this is actually one of the reasons we decided to put the Notes browser plugin outside the browser, because it was very hard to keep up with the Firefox updates. I mean, those guys, they all update almost every day in Safari, in Chrome, in Internet Explorer, now Microsoft Edge. So because of that, the Notes browser plugin is actually gonna still be not dependent, but it's still gonna be related to the browser. You will be able to launch the application, the client application access from the browser, but it's gonna launch as a standalone app, and that's exactly the reason why. Because again, sometimes Firefox make changes, and we just cannot keep up with it. Okay, a few other things I want to show here is I'm gonna go ahead and schedule a meeting invite. And I'm going to invite Bill, okay, and I'm going to call this icon US. And then I'm going to go to my Rooms and Resources database live, right? So let me select a few other places here. There you go. So in Chicago, I can see that the white room is available for 20 people. Click OK to it, and let me look at the scheduling. So live, again, I'm going back to my Domino server, and I can see that I have availability here. So let me move this to 3 to 4 p.m. my time. I go back here, test, and I'm going to send the invite. Perfect, right? Within a few seconds, there you go. I received the acceptance from the white room because it's set up that nobody has to accept that meeting invite. And if I go to Bill, I can see the calendar invite. Everything works perfect here. I'm going to accept it. And then I go back to my Outlook, and I can see it. There you go. It's coming, right? So now Bill Jordan accepted, and everything works very nicely. Now let me go and do it one more time. Bill Jordan, okay, and I'm gonna go to scheduling, and you can see that this is the calendar invite we just sent a couple of seconds ago, right? So this is just to show you that in real time, we're going up to the server and reading the free time database, so every single user in your company, we will be able to access their free time information in real time. Okay, let me go back here one more time. Bill Jordan. I'm going to go back into Chicago. There you go. You can see the white rooms available. But if I go to 3 p.m., which is the time we selected a few minutes ago, oops, still available. Let me select, let me go back here. Okay, I don't know why this one didn't show us. Actually, never mind. One thing I want to mention here is that if you're using rooms and resources in Domino and you're planning on using the Outlook support, in the rooms and resources database, there is a field that allows you to put an internet address for every single room. That's a requirement for Hawthorne, okay, because the way that Outlook doesn't really understand the notes name format, so every single item inside your directory that's going to be handled by Outlook need to have a proper internet address or SMTP address. So in this case, for example, something like white room, I believe is how I call it, at IBM.com. I don't think that's the real address, but anyway, that should give you live, because again, this one doesn't exist, and you get an error here because that's not a real internet address. But live, you would be able to enter people here, and just as you hit enter, they will be able to, real time, go up to the Domino server, grab that information, and put it here. So you don't have to go back and forth between these two options, which in Outlook is quite annoying. Okay, so another thing I like to show in Outlook is, in this case, it shows at the bottom, it says you are connected, right? I don't know if you can see it here, but what happened is that in reality, we developed Hawthorne to work in cache mode, right? So you are always working locally, but there is a live heartbeat on this little plugin listening back to the Domino server. So every time there is a new update, like a new folder, like a change, like a new email, things like that, that live heartbeat is going to pull that information down to the Outlook client, again, in real time. And the way I like to show that is, let me log out from Bill. And now I'm going to log back in as Ted. And you have probably seen this demo before, but let me show you one more time. So you can see that, hopefully it's not too small for you guys, but you can see that I have my folders in Outlook, I have my inbox in Outlook, and I have my folders in my inbox in iNotes, right? So one of the beauties of Project Hawthorne is that you don't have to use one or the other. You can keep using the Notes client, you can keep using iNotes, you can keep using Outlook, and you can even use all of them at the same time, right? We don't really have any restriction of, when you're using one, you shouldn't be using the other one. We really don't care. So let me give you an example here. So I'm going to create a folder, and I'm going to call it Icon US. And when I click OK, I want you guys to look at the folders in Outlook. So 1, 2, 3. There you go. Now you have icon US. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take all these messages in my inbox, and I'm going to move all those messages into the icon US folder. 1, 2, 3. There you go. They are all gone, right? If I go back to my icon US folder, you can see that, you know, all the messages are there. And I'm just going to take the messages from today and one from, you know, last week. I'm going to put those back in my inbox. And if I go here and I go back to, if I go back to my inbox, there you go. You see that in real time, I'm basically modifying my NSF on the Domino server, but using Outlook. As I said, this all works almost real time. There is a live heartbeat listening on the Outlook client. That's actually part of the plugin that you know, enabled this option here, and that is always listening to the Domino server via ActiveSync today, okay, and using SyncML for the option that's going to go, or for the product that's going to go GA later in June, okay? So I don't have any more demos to show here, so let me go back to my presentation here. Play from here. Okay, so these are some of the capabilities I show. Again, you can see everything we support in mail, everything we support around calendar, contacts, you know, search, automatic client updates, offline support, out of office. We're going to support all of that. This is the way that the technology works today. We have a Domino 901 server running HTTPS. This is very important because Outlook requires a proper SSL certificate. If you use a self-signed certificate, that's okay too, but every single Outlook user will have to accept and install that certificate, that root certificate, in order to just not keep asking that every single time. It's actually quite annoying. So just, you know, buy a regular SSL certificate out of VeriSign or GoDaddy or whatever, and then you should be okay moving forward. For everything address lookup, we actually use LDAP. So in Outlook, you know, on top of having to set up the profile for that Outlook user, you will have to connect to an LDAP server. This LDAP server doesn't have to be Domino, could be Active Directory, could be any other LDAP server. Now, keep in mind that you have to make sure that the entries, both on LDAP and the Domino directory, they match 100%, right? Because if you have an email address in the Active Directory, like something Luis at IBM.local or something like that, when you try to send an email, it's not going to work, right? So you have to make sure it's, you know, the internet addresses match. On the Outlook client, you have to install the add-in I have been talking about. Today, we use Enterprise or Exchange ActiveSync, and then we use the REST API for things like the out-of-office encryption, quota management, and stuff like that. This is how it works today, okay? And this is another representation of that. You can see that all the green components are actually Microsoft code. You know, this is the LDAP address lookup you know, profile in Outlook. We use Microsoft code to do the FreeBSD URL or the FreeBSD functionality, and we also use Enterprise Exchange ActiveSync, for anything mail, calendar, and contact synchronization and stuff like that. And as I said, we use the local OST file, which basically enables the cache mode. But this is now we're going to use it when we go GA. This is already available for cloud. So with the Outlook support we have for cloud, it's already working like this, right? We switched from ActiveSync into SyncML. We found that ActiveSync was not very stable when you were handling a very large number of users. So because of that, we moved to SyncML, and we actually moved everything, you know, mail synchronization, calendar, you know, contacts, folders, everything. It now uses SyncML to synchronize. And the FreeBSD functionality, we also put that as part of SyncML. So now we're less dependent on Microsoft code, which makes IBM, you know, more capable of putting new functionality, adding more features, and providing a better support. Because again, we can control everything, and we don't really have to rely on Microsoft to do a lot of this. Okay, so a couple of the architecture guidelines is, number one, you need Domino 901, and based on the version of Hawthorne you're going to deploy. but like the latest one, we support FixPack 5. So you will have to be at FixPack 5. There are some additional FixPacks that we have been requiring over the past 2 years, but all of that are part of FixPack 5 already. ID Vault is required. As I said, we use ID Vault to handle all the encryption, digital signatures, and stuff like that that are stored in the ID. But again, because the Outlook client is not aware of a Notes ID, we use ID Vault in the REST API for that. A big difference between Hawthorne and Traveler is that, you know, we use very similar code. If you think about it, the underlying code is almost the same. But what happened is that for Hawthorne, you actually need a replica of the mail file on the Hawthorne server, okay? So if you have, let's say, one cluster with 2 Domino servers, and you want to put a third Domino server with Hawthorne, you can put it inside the cluster, outside the cluster, it doesn't really matter. But the point is that you need to put a replica of the mail file for those users on that server, okay? Or you can just put the Hawthorne code, you know, on the same production mail servers. That will be totally fine too. Number 2, if you want to do high availability for Hawthorne, you need a load balancer, okay? If you think about it, in Outlook, when you set up the Outlook profile, you can just connect to one single server, right? So in this case, that single server you put in Outlook will be the virtual IP or the virtual qualified host name for the load balancer. And then the load balancer will be the one deciding where the Outlook client should go for the request, okay? So again, in Notes, you don't have to do any of that because Notes is very aware of the clustering, but Outlook is not. That's why you need a load balancer. And FYI, for those people using Domino that are under SNS, we actually include an entitlement to the WebSphere Edge component, and one of those components is a load balancer. And it says WebSphere, but it's actually not WebSphere. It's a product that you install next, something like that, and then you enable the load balancer. You can have a cluster with a Hawthorne and non-Hawthorne servers. By the way, IMSMO is IBM Mail support for Microsoft Outlook. It's just that Hawthorne is easier to say, shorter to say. So you can have a cluster with, let's say, 3 servers, and you said, you know what, I just want to put 1 server for Outlook or 2 servers for Outlook, and the third server in the cluster is not going to have any Outlook support. That's okay. We don't care. If you think about it, Hawthorne is just an additional task running on the Domino server. Yes, we need DB2. For production environments, we need DB2 when you have, I mean, to be honest, more than 10 users, because the amount of activity around the database is huge. So we made a requirement to use DB2. At the beginning, DB2 was mostly required for high availability. So you could have multiple Hawthorne servers connecting to the same DB2 source. But moving forward, you know, and by the time we go to GA, we're actually going to make DB2 a requirement. And we also give you an entitlement to use DB2, so you don't have to pay for it. And oh, by the way, and if you have any existing DB2 servers like Traveler, same time, WebSphere connections, whatever, as long as you are on the right version, you should be okay. I mean, you don't really have to, you know, stand up another DB2 server. You can use an existing one. Just again, check the requirements. And I said this before, you have to use a proper SSL certificate. So a couple of deployment options. I'm going to keep this, you know, pretty simple. So the option 1 I have seen out there is that people just want to put the Outlook users on a separate Domino server. And again, these are graphical representations of hardware, but this could be VM, or you could consolidate DB2 and Hawthorne on the same server as long as you have capacity. It's totally up to you, but it's just easier to represent this way. So you put Hawthorne on your Domino server, you have DB2 listening in the back, handling all the synchronization and stuff like that, and then you have all the LDAP requests going from your Outlook users, they go into the LDAP server. So that's the simplest option to deploy Hawthorne. The other option is, or another option could be, you know, using a 2-way cluster. You have, you know, server 1, server 2. You have one single DB2 server listening in the back, you know, to both Hawthorne servers. You can see the 3 users here connecting to the load balancer, and then the load balancer, you know, deciding where that request should go. And then, you know, as before, you have your LDAP server that could be Domino, could be Active Directory, could be anything you want. running for anything address lookup. This is a little bit more complex scenario, but it's about the same thing, right? So you have a three-way cluster, and this is actually something I did for a customer in Europe a couple of years ago, where they said, you know what, we have 3 servers in a cluster. We want to provide high availability, okay, just for the for Outlook, but anything disaster recovery, they are going to go via HTTP to the other server. And this is just because the inode server was on a different data center, and they didn't want to, handle with all the latency, DB2 synchronization, stuff like that. So we put DB2 on the primary data center in HA. You can see there are 2 DB2 databases here, or 2 DB2 servers doing DB2 HADR. Both Hawthorne servers are connecting to that one. But in case this entire data center fails, okay, all users will be redirected into the DR, data center, disaster recovery data center. But at that point, they will have to use inodes, right, via HTTP. And again, this is a decision made by the company. You could actually have a 3-way cluster with Hawthorne running on all these 3 servers, but again, then you have to deal with how you replicate DB2 into the other data center. That's a different type of question for your DBA, but it can be done. This is just the way that those guys wanted to do it. But at the end, the point here is that you have a lot of flexibility. If you are a really good Domino admin, this should be a no-brainer for you. You can decide how you want to make all these deployments very, very easily. Okay, so a few other things. As I said before, we are less dependent on Microsoft code. The calendar logic is easier now because, again, we moved all that functionality from the active sync protocol into SyncML, which is something we control now. We support IBM Connections Cloud. That was announced already in March. So, okay, on this one, today we support Windows only, okay? And this is the reason. If you think about it, Microsoft Office for Windows and Microsoft Office for Mac, the only thing that's the same is the name. That's it. Nothing else is exactly the same. It's actually 2 different products running on 2 different platforms. Because of that, today, we have not found a good way or any way at all to implement a support for Mac, okay? We would like to do it. As you know, we have a huge partnership with Apple. I run Mac myself, all the development team, all these guys run Mac. So we really want to do it. It's just that it's very hard. There is no easy way to do it. So we are always investigating. But for now, it's Windows support only. We support Outlook 2013. Once we go GA, you are going to be able to beta, connections to Outlook 2010 and Outlook 2016. But officially supported is going to be Outlook 2013. Okay, but as I said, access for 2010 and 2016 is going to be beta on day 1, but it should go GA by very early in Q3. I would say maybe July, no later than that. Okay. There are a few other things we're planning on adding into the code in the future. So, advanced delegation, offline directory, because again, today we have to use the LDAP and you have to be offline if you really want to go against LDAP. We're looking to make that LDAP or directory feature into the SyncML so you don't really have to be online all the time. Smart card authentication, group contact synchronization, forward calendar entries, just like you do in Exchange. That's something we would like to do with Outlook as well, with a Domino backend, but again, we're working on it. Availability. So Nido 1 limited availability is already there. Again, it's already available, has been available for the past 2.5 years. Cloud became available on March 31st, okay? So if you are a Smart Cloud Notes customer, you should be able to go and request the add-ins or entitlement for Outlook support, and that's for anything that was added to the cloud after March 31st. And Hawthorne Next, or what we call, again, mail support for Microsoft Outlook on-prem, that's going to be available early June in 2016. Okay, so expect an announcement, very, very soon, maybe late May or early June with the EGA date, so you will be able to go and download all this code. Today, you have to go through a nomination process. If you actually, let me show you here. So how to get it today? You have to go through a nomination process. You can either talk to your local IBM technical rep or a business partner, or you can just send me an email. Make sure you copy any IBMer that work with you. But, you know, again, this goes through a nomination process. Usually takes just like 2, 3, 4 days, no more than that, to get everything up and running. But when this code goes GA in early June, you will be able to just go to your Partner World or Passport Advantage, and you will be able to download everything you need from there. And if you're an IBMer and you want to know more about this, just go to this link here, and it will take you to all the instructions and everything you need to know to get this up and running. And that's it. Thank you very much. Let me go back to the chat, whatever it is.
You have questions. You definitely have questions. I'm sending them to you now. You
Well, let me.
see the little questions panel on the right-hand side under your control list.
There you,
little questions there.
There you go.
And you can pop it out if you need to, but make it bigger. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 questions.
Okay. So me and other VPs have customers very interested in that. Can you be more specific about day 4 GA? Okay. So I'm not authorized to give you the official date, but the date has been already set. It's just that, again, it's not my job to say that, but I can tell you it's going to be within the first 2 weeks of June. So I cannot be more specific than that, but again, it's going to be before June 20th, for sure.
All right. And if you open your questions area, you'll see the list there.
Okay, so self-signed certificates. Yes, it will work with self-signed certificates. The problem is that Outlook is very dependent on Microsoft operating system recognizing or trusting that certificate, right? So if you use a self-signed certificate, every time you want to connect Outlook to Domino, you're going to get a prompt saying, like, just like if you were using HTTPS, website with a self-signed certificate, you get that annoying prompt like, do you really trust this? You want to keep going, blah, blah, blah. So because of that, for a pilot, it's okay. You can use a self-signed one, but for production, just, go with a real one. It's easier that way. Okay, so date, I said that it's going to be within the first 2 or 3 weeks of June, no later than that. And I don't see any more questions, Chris.
Oh, look under the questions. So you're looking in the chat tab. There's another one called questions.
Oh, got it. Yeah, there you go. Okay, awesome.
You should have 6.
Okay, so yeah, so the first one is about the ID vault. Yes, so if you are offline and there are encrypted emails, you will not be able to read those emails if you are offline, right? What you can do is you can open the email, unencrypt it, and then save the email without the encryption keys, so now it's available offline. So that's something that we might look into in the future, but to be honest, there is no demand for it based on, the LA program. Everybody's okay with just, reading these online and unencrypting before they go offline. So with Hawthorn, is there an utility for migrating Exchange mailbox to a Notes mail file? Okay, so we had a tool from ISSC that was an utility to migrate Exchange content into Domino, okay? I don't have a lot of detail about the tool today. I know there have been multiple versions of it, and I know, like, for example, with MOM, Mail Onboarding Manager, there is a new version also coming in the next few days that's going to support Exchange Domino migrations. There is a guy, I'm going to put this guy here, Stuart McKay. Oops. I don't know if I'm putting this in the right place, but and I don't know. So anyway, so send me an email, and this guy, he's the guy that runs the migration business at IBM, and he can really give you more information about, what tool is out there that we support or we'd like to work with, or even an IBM provided tool that you can use at no cost. I don't know, but again, he's the guy that we should talk to. Okay, so does Hawthorne support on-read red marks between the various clients? Yes, absolutely. So in Domino, we keep that information as part of the NSF itself. If you use Hawthorne, we keep that information about on-reads in the DB2 database. So we don't really save any personal data on the DB2 database, right? We only support node IDs and transaction IDs and stuff like that. But we also keep track of what has been read or not. So when you jump between Outlook clients or you jump between nodes, iNodes, and Outlook, you can keep all that information consistent. So yes. Is there any documentation available that outlines the limitations of Hawthorne? Yes. If you deploy the plugin, you can read that in the online documentation, or when you get access to the program, either via LA or when we go GA, there is a PDF. It's basically the admin guide that if you look at the last page, it's I think the last page or the last 2 pages, it explains all the limitations with Hawthorne, because again, I mean, before you roll this out, especially to people that have been using Exchange their entire life, you want to make sure you understand what works different, right? It might work better, it might work different, but you just want to make sure that you understand the differences before you roll this out. Okay, a few more. Tom, for clarity, is the IMSMO server Domino with Hawthorne installed? So yes, so basically you have to, if this is what I think it is, you have a Domino 901 running, you put the fixpack 5, and then you have to download these additional tasks that you install on the Domino server. And to be honest, it's next, that's it. It takes you no more than 5 minutes to get that up and running, and then you go through the configuration, which is another couple of minutes, right? So it's more about the bigger picture, the architecture and stuff like that, but the installation process itself, the way you execute the installation, is very, very easy. Okay, how do you handle if users want to use SameTime? Do you install as a standalone client? Also with Hawthorne, work on Domino 7 running on I. Okay, so for SameTime, you can just install the SameTime standalone, and if you look at the SameTime, there is a customization file where you can enable the Microsoft Office integration. So when you launch SameTime, in the installation file, you modify the installation. There are a few lines you have to remove remove the comment lines and put it like an official line. And when you install SameTime, it will actually install the component from Microsoft Office. So every time you open the SameTime client and you open the Outlook or the Microsoft Office, you will see the SameTime integration as part of Microsoft Office. So yes, so again, standalone, because embedded only applies for nodes. And Hawthorne on IBM I, no, we don't have a lot of demand for that, so we just stay with IAX, Linux, and Windows. Those are the platforms we support. Can we import a self-signed certificate so the warning doesn't appear? Yes, you can do that. Again, you just have to do it for every single user that wants to use this, right? Again, recommendation is always go with a proper SSL certificate. But if you don't have access to one or you don't want to use one for a pilot, that's okay. You just have to, do it every single time you set up Outlook for the first time. Okay, if you're on 853, do you need to upgrade the whole IBM Domino infrastructure, blah, blah, blah? Okay, so the question is, if I'm running 853, do I have to upgrade everything for that additional 901 server? No, you don't have to. So this customer I was talking about in Brazil, they were actually running 704 or 705. They were running a very, old version. It was 7 something. And what we did is we put the Domino server for the Hawthorne users, on a separate Domino server. We made sure we didn't replicate like Domino directory, and we didn't really want to mess with the design of the production databases. So we just put that one single Domino server outside, the production mail servers running 901. We make the changes to replication schedule and things like that. So again, we didn't really want to change the design of anything production, and that's it. We were able to, work just fine. What Domino operating system? So today, for limited availability, we support Red Hat and SUSE, but for GA, we're going to go only with Red Hat Enterprise Linux. To be honest, we have only one customer running SUSE, and they are actually moving away to Red Hat, so that's why we're not going to keep supporting SUSE. But again, AIX, Windows 2008 and 2012, and Red Hat Linux, whatever is supported for Domino. Okay, so questions keep coming.
You have time left. You have 3 minutes, so you get a couple more questions. There's one. We have one more. That's all I see in the queue is one.
Okay, so since we're running on IBM I, we would like to set up a complete new Domino server just for use on Windows. Is this covered in the admin guide? Well, to be honest, no, right? Because this is just regular Domino administration that you want to set up a what you may want to do here is that you can create a cluster with that Domino on I, just for the real-time, replication stuff. You can make it a cluster. You can put the second node or the new Domino server in the cluster running on Windows, and then you have real-time replication, right? So, and you put Hawthorn on the Windows server, and that's it, up and running. Or you can put it just as an additional Domino server. You decide what users are going to run on that Domino server, or even, you don't even have to really move the user into the new Domino server. You can just create a replica, and in the person document, you don't really have to make any changes. Just keep in mind that there will be a delay, because if you have the main server running on I, and you have the Hawthorne server running on Windows, and it's not a cluster, and the person document points to the IBM I server as the main server, you will have a delay based on whatever the replication document says. So if you replicate every 5 minutes, people will see email in Outlook every 5 minutes. If you replicate every 20 minutes, you will see new emails in Outlook every 15 minutes, or every 20 minutes, sorry. So again, it totally depends. So I have a lot of customers that have done something like this, and the standard is they just create a cluster and they just go production with it, and that's it. So they have real-time, synchronization. And no more questions, I believe. No
more. Go back one more slide on your screen there, just so they have your contact info or where to reach out to, for sure, as we close up. There you go. I want to make sure everybody was able to see that. So if you're looking to get Hawthorne, and I'm going to have a poll up after this, just a real quick one on Hawthorne for everybody, but make sure that you reach out to, either your local rep or, get in touch with Luis to get you the right person or a partner that can help you. Tom from Teamcentric, they do deployments, and they're on. We've got people that are capable of helping get you in the right direction to get started now if you want to. So you have anything else before your last 2 minutes?
No, that, as I said, if you're getting Hawthorne in the next few weeks as part of the LA program, use it as a pilot, perfect, make sure it works for you, and that's what you need. But do not do any massive rollout, because again, the GA version is coming very, very early in June. So with the new version, because it's SyncML, you will have to set up a new profile in Outlook, so you just don't want to do the same thing twice for a large number of users. So other than that, that's it. Thank you very much.
Not a problem. We'll hang on 1 second for you. And I would thank you, Luis, for spending his time this morning. And this was, people had a lot of questions on this one. Definitely had a lot of questions. I'm going to share a quick poll while we take the next break. Real quick here. I'm going to share this out to everybody. Just to get some information for everybody for future reference purposes. We're going to take our break. I'll put up the agenda again in a few minutes, but we'll be back in about 16 minutes to start our next session. So Luis, thank you very much. Tom, thank you for your part, and we'll see everybody in about 15 minutes.
Thank you, guys.